Greetings and welcome to week 1 of OTLT. In module 1.1, we're going to talk about preparation for online teaching. We're going to have to do a fundamental paradigm shift between teaching in a face-to-face class and teaching online. So what are the basic differences between the two? Well, when you're teaching in a face-to-face class, you communicate with your students directly standing in class. But faculty communicate with their students using the course management system with an online class, using the tools that are supplied there. Here at College of the Redwoods, we use Canvas. This communication is usually asynchronous, which means you are not both online at the same time. As a result, faculty are required to use various approaches to connect with their students, evaluate their academic progress, and respond effectively to their needs. Other online teachers need different strategies to make sure that each student participates in course activities and the class creates an online community. It's one of the hardest things that I have found in online teaching is working to get your students to feel like they are in a class with other students, that they're not there by themselves, that you create this online community of learners, which is a really important aspect of effective online teaching. This means not only teacher to student communication, but also student to student communication. Effective online communication skills are essential. It's probably one of the most important parts to have a successful online course. So from the State Academic Senate, I've got a couple quotes here from them. Faculty must recognize that teaching online requires skills and training not only in the use of technology, but also in effective pedagogical methods for teaching in the online environment. Things are very different in the online environment than they are in the face-to-face class, and keeping that upmost in your head will really help make a successful experience for you and your students. So let's talk about some of the things that we need, some of the tools that we need in order to be able to give that experience to our students. So faculty preparation should include both technical training in the use of course management systems and training in effective pedagogical methods for online instruction, hence the OTLT. Again, that's a quote from the State Academic Senate. So here in this module, we're going to take a brief look at some of the technological skills and a little bit at the pedagogical skills that are necessary to teach online. It's kind of like a preview for the course, so to speak, and we'll get in more in depth on each of these topics as we work through successive modules. Faculty members who wish to teach online should not only possess basic proficiency in computer skills, but should also be acquainted with and feel comfortable using advanced programs and applications. So we're going to go through a list here, basically from the least to the most complex, with examples of what are needed to teach online. Now, of course, these are not exhaustive. There may be other skills that are necessary, but this is a good basic understanding. And by the way, hybrid courses, which are part online and part face-to-face, need these skills also. So we'll start off with the most basics, of course, which you need to know how to keyboard, you need to know how to type, need to know how to do audio recording. At the moment, I am using a program called Camtasia to do this this video, and I would not use my microphone that is built into my MacBook to do that. I have an external mic that I'm working with. So when you do audio recording, to get the quality that you need, you're going to need to get a good external microphone. File management. Creating file names that are good for you, but not anybody else, well, you have to kind of change that sometimes, or most times when you're working in the online environment. If you're going to have files that you want students to access, the file names need to be indicative of what the file actually contains. Different file formats. You should, of course, be familiar with the basic word processing file formats like doc, docx, RTF, and text, but also there are many image file formats like JPEG, GIF, PNGs, lots of different ways of creating images, and they all have their pluses and minuses. And then PDFs, which are portable document formats that we use pretty extensively. We're going to talk about some of the pluses and minuses to that file format as we work through the course. And then WAV, of course, which is one way Windows-based audio files. And then MPEG-4s, which is actually this video that you're watching was saved as an MPEG-4 for videos. Understand different file storage options. You can save some stuff into the Canvas shell that you're given directly, but you're limited to 500 megabytes in Canvas. So knowing some of the external options that you have for saving stuff can be very useful. YouTube, Dropbox, etc. good places if you're going to have large files, particularly if you're doing video. YouTube is a great place to post things. And then, of course, you can organize your files within Canvas, and if students are going to be accessing files in your Canvas shell, then it's a good idea that you organize those correctly. So let's go take a quick peek at a Canvas shell here. Get into the right one. This is my calculus class, And if you go and you take a look at the files, which I allow my students to get access to here, you'll see that it's a folder system where things are really easy to get to, so they can go in and they can find handouts, they can find all the different things that they need. So it's much it's very important for your students in terms of being able to find things effectively, is that you do some sort of subfoldering or some sort of file management that makes things a little bit easier. Again, this is just beginnings of it. We'll have more detail on this as we work through actually learning how to use Canvas in a later module. Okay, so let's go back to the current discussion here and let's talk about word processing. So word processing is kind of one of the fundamentals that all of us use. There's a nice editor built into Canvas. It was called a page, and you can use a page to create a document that you would like to share with your students. It also pretty well, I mean, not exact, but it does a very good job for the most part of allowing you to paste a Word document into a page. But if you're looking to do collaborative editing among your students, in other words, you don't want to just have a fixed page, then you might want to learn how to use like Google Docs, which is built into Canvas. It's one of the options that your students can use for collaborative work. Basic formatting techniques, bolded lists, page numbers, etc. Those are all things that are basic word processing. The page option in Canvas, if you take it over directly as a Word doc, will retain much of that, but it will not necessarily retain the page breaks. If you want to keep page breaks, etc., then you might want to think about saving your documents as a PDF. And of course, you need to be proficient at just doing all the things you need to know about word processing, inserting tables, graphs, etc. Presentations. These slides are actually created using PowerPoint. You might use Keynote. And the other good news is that Canvas supports PowerPoint. You can actually drag and drop, for the most part, your PowerPoint presentations right into Canvas, and students can get access to them also. If you want to get a little more advanced, we're kind of moving up the ladder here just a bit, you might want to include multimedia presentations in your Canvas page. You can go and easily source things from YouTube and other sources, Khan Academy, TED Ed, places like that are easily sourced right into a page in Canvas. But then of course the ultimate goal is that you want to create your own content. You want to be able to actually provide things to the students with your own voice. And so that's where things get a little more complicated, where you have to learn how to use a package like Captivate or Camtasia. And as we move through the course, we'll be offering options of places where you can go to learn those more advanced skills. Okay, so that's kind of a rough overview of some of the technological things that you need to be able to teach online. Let's talk about the big one, the elephant in the room, so to speak. Is that the real one you need to know the most about is your course management system, which is Canvas. It's possibly the most important technology that you're going to learn when you're teaching an online course. So the CMS, of course, at College of Redwoods is Canvas. In Module 3, we're going to be providing an introduction to skills necessary to work within the Canvas system. But if you'd like to go ahead and get a jump start on that, there's a very nice set of videos put together by Instructure that you can find at resources.instructure.com/courses/36. Would highly recommend that if you get some time this week that you go take a look at that. That would be very helpful for you. So let's switch gears and start talking about pedagogical readiness. Faculty members who wish to teach online should have a variety of fundamental skills in online pedagogy management and interaction, technological integration, assessment, and accessibility. Whew, that's a mouthful. So we're going to talk about each of those pedagogical things as we work through this course through our 4 weeks. We'll talk about how to do integration, assessment, accessibility as separate modules actually. But one of the fundamentals is that the technology should provide the mechanism through which online teachers implement the best pedagogy for that course or topic. In other words, the technology should assist and enable the course content. So the course content should be accessible, it should be well integrated, it should be interactive, it should be easily manageable, and the assessments should be rich and informative, and all of that should be supported by your CMS, which is in a big way why we picked Canvas, because in many ways it does offer all of those things. Effective online pedagogy is one that emphasizes student-centered learning and employs active learning activities. Interactivity, faculty, and student presence are essential in an effective online learning environment. Again, one more time, building an online community or building your students a sense of belonging in the class so that they're not working with just themselves is really, really important. Interactivity is the heart and soul of effective asynchronous learning. I have taken online courses in the past where I never interacted with any of the rest of my students or the faculty, and you really feel like you're just sitting in a room by yourself reading a book. And that's not the experience that we're hoping our students get. So let's go over real quickly the key points that we just talked about with pedagogy. So management, that's how do you manage your interaction, how do you manage the course within the system? How do you deliver the materials, the assignments? How do you deliver the readings, the online lectures, the videos? That's the course management system. How do you work with that? And then how do you get interaction within that system? How do you get your students talking to each other? How do you get them to work with each other and make sure between you and your students that you're having a successful experience? One of the things that's very different in the online environment versus the face-to-face is that you truly need to embrace the paradigm shift of going from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. Although the interaction is crucial, the interaction is much more guiding in its nature when you're working in an online class. Assessment, how do we assess students in the online environment? Using strictly multiple choice quizzes in the online environment is probably not advisable. I mean, there definitely is a place for them, but assessment needs to be formative and not all just summative. And we will have a module where we talk about that. And actually, we'll be talking about pretty much all of these as separate modules. And accessibility, that's really important. ADA compliance is not just to adhere to the law. ADA compliance and accessible materials work for all students, not just for the students that need accommodations. So we're going to talk about accessibility and how to make our material accessible to all students. I think this picture up here kind of sums up my whole take on the online environment. As you notice, is that we can think about now really the books are the backstop, and the computer and our interaction in the online community has become the fundamental. Okay, so whoops, sorry, let's twice. So why are you taking this class? Hopefully not to listen to me ramble on about online pedagogy. I think the reason you're all taking this class is because you want to get certified, that you'd like to be able to teach an online class. And College of the Redwoods has adhered to what most of the folks in the state have realized is that we need to do some sort of training to help faculty embrace the best pedagogy and best ways of teaching in this. So if you want to teach here at College of the Redwoods an online class, you need to complete our OTLT, or the Online Teaching and Learning Training, which is what you're enrolled in. You need to have a certificate of completion in online training from an accredited college or university, such as UCLA's online teaching program, Siracusa Online Educator Certificate Program, or really a common one is the @ONE Teaching Certification Program. So if you're certified from an external source that's from an accredited college or university, then we can take that. Or we grandparented in demonstrated prior successful experience in teaching an online course here at College of the Redwoods. So if you'd been working at College of the Redwoods prior to the implementation of the OTLT and this MOU, then we also grandparented in those folks. Okay, so I'm assuming if you're in this class, you have one or two reasons that you're doing it. One, you really want to learn. I took this class because I really wanted to learn some more about online teaching. Or you're just extremely interested in being able to teach online, so you need to get that OTLT certification. Okay, well that's, I think, enough for this little video. If you need any additional assistance on anything throughout this course, there are 3 people who are more than happy to talk to you about it. Primary, of course, is me, Mike Butler. I'm the faculty coordinator for distance education this year, and you can get a hold of me most rapidly through email. That's the best way to find me. My phone typically is there just as a messaging machine. If you want to get a response from me, send me an email. I'll get back to you within 24 hours for sure. Another excellent resource is Reno, our man. Okay, if you need any help technologically or for that matter on course design, Reno is your man. He is amazing. He's such an amazing resource. You know, please feel free to use him and sign up for when you actually start designing your course. Be sure and get some hours of work with Reno to help you with that. He will definitely help you a lot. And of course, Kathy Cox. I'd be failing to not mention her. Kathy is amazing also. Her breadth of knowledge in the online teaching environment and in terms of all things distance ed, she is a wonderful resource, and I would encourage you strongly to also, if you have any questions about pedagogy questions or anything along those lines, do not be shy to ask Kathy, because she's just going to be a great resource to bounce things off of. Okay, well, looking forward to having a wonderful course with you, and I'll see you in the next video.